Let me ask you a question. Do you ever have those days or, maybe even entire weeks where you just feel like you are running on a treadmill at maximum speed?
Oh, absolutely. Like you're sprinting but getting nowhere.
Right. You're exhausting yourself. You're checking off this endless series of boxes, jumping from one obligation to the next. But then at the end of the day, you look around and realize you haven't actually moved an inch.
Yeah, it's a profoundly common modern experience,
Yeah.
honestly. We've basically optimized our efficiency, but in doing so, we've kind of lost sight of our trajectory. It's that feeling of perpetual motion without any meaningful progress.
Exactly. And that very specific feeling is exactly why we're plunging into today's deep dive. We've got our hands on a really fascinating, highly detailed text from 2006.
It is a massive text.
It really is. It's written by an author known as Deiform Buddha, and it's titled The Life Values Advocated by Lifechanyuan. And our mission today is to just explore this text because it presents this almost like architectural framework for navigating human existence.
And ideally, escaping that feeling of aimless exhaustion you were just talking about.
Right, right. But before we get into the actual mechanics of that framework, I think we need to offer a quick but super important disclaimer.
Yes, definitely. So this text touches heavily on religious, spiritual, and philosophical doctrines. And our goal in this deep dive is completely impartial.
Completely.
We are not here to endorse these views, we're not taking sides, and we're certainly not validating the theology. We're simply acting as your guides to break down these concepts exactly as they're presented in the source material.
Yeah, we just want to help you understand the internal logic of this very unique belief system. We're essentially just rolling out the blueprints to see how the building stands up.
That's a great way to put it.
And to set up those blueprints, the text uses this brilliant, highly visual analogy that I think really hits home for anyone feeling stuck in that perpetual motion.
Belief in the wind, right?
Yes. The author argues that living without clear values is literally like being a leaf caught in shifting winds. When the east wind blows, you drift east. When the west wind picks up and, blows a bit stronger, your trajectory completely reverses and you drift west.
You're just at the mercy of the elements.
Exactly. You exhaust all your energy just following the crowd, reacting to external pressures, but you never actually achieve any clarity or purpose.
What's really fascinating here is how the text diagnoses the root cause of human suffering. Like, before it even introduces any of its complex cosmic maps, it starts with this very grounded premise.
Which is what?
Well, that human beings suffer not because the world is inherently cruel, but because they fundamentally lack direction. It positions values not just as, like, moral suggestions, but as the literal steering wheel of your reality.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because the text argues that values act as a compass, and that compass is forged entirely by your worldview.
Yeah, and it makes a rather bold, uncompromising claim right out of the gate with this.
Oh, totally.
The author states that the vast, sweeping diversity of human outcomes, like why one person becomes a revered global leader and another becomes a business tycoon, or a clergy member, or even a violent criminal.
It all comes back to values.
Entirely. It stems entirely from their differing value systems. The text completely rejects the idea that circumstances or random chance dictate your life. According to this framework, it's all about the compass you're currently holding.
And they use this really stark contrast to illustrate this, which caught my attention. The text says that the values held by Jesus and Buddha are precisely what shaped their enlightened divine qualities.
Right.
But on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, it argues that it was Hitler's values that shaped his demonic nature.
It's putting the entire weight of human output, whether that's profound good or unimaginable evil, squarely on the foundation of the values a person actively cultivates.
So it's an argument for radical internal responsibility, basically.
Exactly. The author is essentially saying that a life without deliberately chosen values is entirely blind. It's a state of constant vulnerability.
Because if you don't have a functioning compass, you're just reacting to your environment.
Right, you're making decisions based on whatever wind is blowing the hardest at that exact moment in time.
But, reading that, I actually have to push back just a little on the author's framing here.
How so?
Well, the text suggests people are drifting because they have absolutely no values, but thinking about you, the listener, and the hyper-connected world we live in today, I'd argue it's not that we don't have a compass. It's that our compass is spinning wildly because of absolute information overload.
Ah, I see what you mean.
Right. Like, We doom scroll for 2 hours,
Right.
absorbing the values of a minimalist influencer, then like a hustle culture entrepreneur, then a political pundit. We jump on whatever bandwagon trend is dominating our feeds, and then we just abandon it tomorrow.
That is a very sharp modernization of the concept.
It feels like a very modern translation of what the text means by following the crowd and achieving nothing.
And it aligns perfectly with the text's warning about chaotic values. Because when you're doom scrolling, you are absorbing thousands of microscopic, often completely contradictory value systems every single hour.
Yes, your compass needle is twitching in 100 different directions.
Because you're experiencing a cognitive collision of worldviews. You never actually stop to reflect on what is most important, which leaves you completely unable to distinguish your own priorities from the noise.
Which is exactly why you end the day feeling exhausted but having accomplished literally nothing. You've spent all your energy just trying to recalibrate your compass.
But here's the thing, realizing your compass is spinning is really only half the battle. If you manage to steady the needle, you still need to know the terrain.
Because a compass is useless without a map.
Exactly. And Lifechanyuan provides an incredibly literal, expansive map for that terrain. To understand their values, you really have to understand their specific cosmology.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because this text doesn't just offer like a few nice philosophical tips for a better morning routine. It offers an incredibly intricate map of the entire universe.
And it's a highly structured universe. According to the text, correct values can only stem from an accurate understanding of time, space, and what the author capitalizes as life.
Yes, life in all caps. It treats it as this grand, overarching concept that goes way beyond just biological breathing.
Right. So what does this universal map actually look like? Well, the text outlines a reality that operates with strict, unbreakable precision. This order is governed by a fundamental force called the Tao.
Okay, the Tao.
But it goes further, stating that everything, the Tao, the universe, all of existence, operates under the conscious control of a supreme supernatural soul. And the text refers to this soul as the greatest creator.
And it doesn't stop at just identifying a creator. The text specifies that this universe consists of exactly 36 dimensions.
36. Yeah.
36. And within this massive multi-dimensional structure, that grand concept of life is eternal. Like death, as we traditionally understand it, is not the end of existence at all.
The author describes a human lifespan as just a single temporary transit within the broader journey of life.
A transit, so just passing through.
Basically, yeah. When your physical body dies, that's simply the termination of one specific phase and the immediate commencement of a new one in a totally different dimension.
I was just marveling at the philosophical synthesis here, because the text seamlessly weaves together the greatest creator, which maps pretty closely to the concept of God in Western Abrahamic traditions, with the Eastern concept of the Tao.
While also directly citing the teachings of Jesus and Buddha as functional guides.
Right. It's this massive, unified theory of global spirituality.
It's highly ambitious, for sure, but it's also highly operational.
And that brings up the mechanics of it, because hearing you lay out this 36-dimension structure, I just have to ask, is this essentially a cosmic point system?
What do you mean?
Well, it sounds incredibly similar to a video game. Like, you play the human existence level, and your life's score at the end of the level determines whether you unlock the glorious heavenly realms out of those 36 dimensions, or if you get bumped down to the lower, more punitive levels.
I mean, a video game captures the progression aspect, but it's perhaps a bit too linear for what the text is describing.
Okay, so how does it work?
It describes it less as a scoreboard and more as a system of resonance or density. The quality of your life at the exact moment your current journey ends determines your starting point for the next journey.
Ah, so it's about what you're compatible with.
Exactly. If you end this life with a highly refined, high-quality life, you become energetically compatible with the heavenly realms. You ascend. But if your quality is low, dense, and chaotic, you inevitably descend to lower levels of existence.
So what does this all mean for the listener? Well, it means the pressure is on, because if the universe is a 36-story building and human existence is just the lobby, how do you make sure the elevator goes up? Like, how do you actually refine this life quality?
According to Lifechanyuan, the absolute highest priority, like the core mission of human existence, is to construct and perfect what they call the non-material structure of your being.
The non-material structure. We really need to spend some time on this, because this is the absolute hinge of the entire philosophy, and it's where the text gets incredibly strict.
Very strict.
It states flat out that everything tangible you gain through your life struggles, everything you can touch, see, drive, or put in a bank account, ultimately amounts to absolutely nothing.
It demands a radical detachment from the physical world. And the underlying logic here is basically a matter of spiritual physics.
Spiritual physics.
Yeah, the text argues that physical matter is finite and dense, but life itself is infinite and non-material. Therefore, spending your infinite time accumulating finite heavy things is a mathematical and spiritual error.
Wow.
Because at the moment of biological death, the physical world just falls away. You simply cannot take your wealth, your fame, your social status, or your material possessions with you.
I mean, I think most of our listeners are probably right there with you on that. The concept of you can't take it with you is a pretty well-worn trope, but the text pushes this logic to an extreme that I found genuinely jarring.
You're talking about the relationships.
Yes. It explicitly states that even your loved ones, your parents, your spouse, your children cannot follow you into the next dimension.
It is a very stark, uncompromising realization. The text emphasizes that the only thing you carry across the dimensional threshold is the internal quality of life you cultivated.
Just the non-material structure.
Right. It's the actual architecture of your consciousness, your virtues, and your spiritual frequency. It likens this non-material structure to Jesus' teaching about storing treasures in heaven, or Buddha's concept of the fruition of enlightenment.
And if you build this structure correctly, the ultimate goal is to reach these incredible-sounding target destinations. The text lists them as the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world.
Which sound amazing.
Yeah, just based on the naming convention, you get the sense of ascending tiers of longevity, ethereal existence, and ultimate spiritual bliss. That is where you want to project your non-material structure. But I have to push back here on the severity of how you actually get there.
Okay, where do you see the friction?
Well, it's one thing to accept that my bank account stays on Earth, but leaving behind your spouse, your kids, framing emotional attachments to your family as dense material weight that you just have to leave behind,
It's heavy.
it frames this non-material structure as the ultimate uncompromising solo project. It sounds profoundly isolating. How does someone reconcile that extreme detachment with actually functioning in the real world and being, a good partner or parent?
That's a great question, and the text actually anticipates that exact friction.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it knows it's asking followers to exist within a complex physical world full of relationships and societal duties, while demanding they remain hyper-focused on an intangible, solitary afterlife project. And the solution it offers is to adopt a very specific psychological framework.
Which is?
You must treat your current physical life as a game.
A game. So the people around you are just, what, NPCs in a simulation?
Not quite that cynical. Think of it more like an immersive theater experience or a temporary journey where everyone is just a fellow passenger. The text literally states, life is but a journey, and at its end, we all must disembark.
So everyone gets off the train eventually.
Right. Whether your life involves great wealth or crushing poverty, brilliance or obscurity, a long lifespan or a tragic short one, it is all just part of the temporary play.
Okay, so while you are on this temporary stage, how are you actually supposed to act?
The text encourages followers to pursue freedom, joy, and a life entirely free of regrets. Because the journey is finite, it places a massive premium on time. There's a wonderful phrase used in the translation, "An inch of time is an inch of gold."
Oh, I like that.
And you cannot use that gold to buy back wasted time. Therefore, not a single moment of your focus should be wasted on worldly illusions.
But the author isn't advocating for nihilism, right? It's not saying you should just abandon your responsibilities, quit your job, and ignore your kids because it's all fake anyway.
No, and that distinction is the crux of the philosophy. The text insists that followers must actively engage with their environment. You must do good deeds, repay all your debts to the world, and fulfill your earthly duties wholeheartedly.
Okay, so you still have to participate.
Absolutely. You care for your family, you do your job.
Right.
But, and this answers your concern about isolation, you must do these things with a transcendent mindset.
A transcendent mindset.
Right. You participate in the physical world, but you do not anchor your identity to it. You act out of duty and universal love, rather than grasping attachment.
So you play your role, you pay your taxes, you raise your kids, but internally, your compass is entirely pointed toward the 36th dimension.
Exactly.
You're building the architecture of your non-material structure by acting virtuously while simultaneously recognizing that the physical results of those actions are temporary.
Precisely. And this internal posture leads directly to another major operational tenet of the Lifechanyuan framework, the doctrine of non-conflict.
Oh.
The text is absolute on this. Followers must not fight with heaven, earth, people, or governments.
Zero conflict.
None. Zero. And it's vital to understand why. This isn't just a moral plea to be a polite neighbor, it's spiritual physics again.
How so?
Conflict like anger, resentment, political fighting, it generates incredibly dense, chaotic energy. It requires an immense amount of focus. By fighting with the temporary physical world, you are wasting your precious inch of gold.
You're ruining your non-material structure.
You're literally corroding it, yes, and anchoring your life frequency to the lowest dimensions.
That actually makes total sense within their framework. Like, if the physical world is just a temporary game lobby, throwing a tantrum and fighting the other players in the lobby is absurd. You're just supposed to be waiting for your match to start.
That's a perfect analogy.
Which brings us to a concept that completely flips this doctrine of non-conflict on its head, I think. The idea of radical independence.
Yes. The text outlines a sweeping rejection of earthly authority over the inner self. It demands that followers must never surrender their lives to any physical or societal entity, and it provides a highly comprehensive list of what to avoid.
Yeah, I have the list right here, and it leaves absolutely no wiggle room.
Yeah.
It says you must not surrender your life to nations, to political parties, to religions, which is wild considering how deeply spiritual this text is.
Right.
To families, to masters, to spouses, to gangs, to organizations, or to any individual person. You're instructed to entrust your life only to the greatest creator and the Tao.
It is a demand for total sovereign immunity from the physical world.
And the text ends this section with a massive rallying cry, a mantra that reads, "My destiny rests firmly in my own hands." But look, I really want to point out a fascinating paradox here for you, the listener, to chew on.
I'll go for it.
The author tells you to entrust your life completely to this supernatural greatest creator, to yield entirely to the flow of the Tao. But in the exact same breath, the text tells you not to surrender to religions, masters, or human organizations, and caps it off with, "My destiny is in my own hands."
This raises a really important question about the nature of freedom, doesn't it? Like, how can you be entirely surrendered and entirely independent at the same time?
It's this wild, incredibly tight philosophical tightrope. On one side, you have total divine surrender to the universe's ordered operation. On the other side, you have absolute radical individual sovereignty. It's essentially saying, the universe is in control, but absolutely nobody on Earth has the right to dictate my internal trajectory.
And the paradox resolves itself when you view it through the lens of their cosmology.
How so?
Total divine surrender actually requires total earthly rebellion. Because if you surrender your mind to a political party, a corporation, or even the expectations of your family, you are allowing a flawed, three-dimensional institution to design your non-material structure.
Oh, wow.
You're giving away your compass to someone who is just as lost as you are.
Wow. So by refusing to submit to the physical world, you're keeping your compass calibrated entirely to the cosmic map.
To synthesize what we've explored today, Lifechanyuan offers a deeply intricate, highly demanding framework for existence.
Yeah.
It begins by identifying a lack of clear values as the root cause of human drifting and modern exhaustion.
Right.
It then provides a vast 36-dimension cosmological map governed by the greatest creator and the Tao, synthesizing the wisdom of figures like Jesus and Buddha into a functional spiritual physics.
So the compass to navigate and the 36-dimensional map to read.
Exactly. And from there, it outlines the ultimate human objective, carefully constructing your non-material structure. Because physical matter and emotional attachments cannot cross the threshold of death, your sole focus must be refining your consciousness to ensure a higher quality of life in the next dimension, aiming for the 1,000-year, 10,000-year, or Elysium worlds.
Right.
And finally, it advises navigating our current reality by treating it as a fleeting, immersive game. You fulfill your duties without engaging in the heavy, corrosive energy of conflict, all while maintaining an unbreakable, radical personal sovereignty over your own eternal destiny.
It is just a staggering amount of material to process. Whether you view this text as a literal spiritual roadmap for the afterlife, or simply as, a really fascinating, extreme psychological thought experiment about how we value our time on Earth, it definitely forces a change in perspective.
It certainly does.
And that brings us to the end of our exploration today. But before you go back to your day, before you step back onto that treadmill and into the perpetual motion of the modern world, I want to leave you with a final question to ponder.
The very necessary reflection, given the demands of this source material.
Think about the exact life you are living right now. The things you stress over, the things you prioritize, the energy you expend. If your specific journey ended tomorrow, if your time in this temporary theater was up and you had to strip away absolutely everything tangible, you lose your job title, your savings account, your reputation, your home, and yes, even your earthly relationships. All of the heavy matter falls away. What exactly makes up your non material structure? Because if the internal architecture of your consciousness is the only luggage you get to carry into the next dimension, what are you actually packing?